So I'm going to open up the NAD on camera, and I'll do a separate video on the SB3000. Yeah, so I've been working on upgrading the audio system here in the garage, and I've tried a couple different options, and OG is doing some audio sales, and this was an open box, and I just had to. So I picked this up for enough of a discount that if I didn't like it, I could probably sell it on eBay for more than what I paid for it. So based on all of that, I'm gonna give it a shot and see how it worked. So this is an open box from OG. We'll lift this guy out, and then we'll just kind of turn it sideways here. So there's a box here with some stuff in it. There's the actual unit with 2 foam blocks. So we'll just pull this off. Pull this off. And this is what it looks like when you buy an OG open box product. So it's in the original foam, it's wrapped in the original bag. The bag is taped, just like it would be from the factory. There is a small hole in the bag here, but it is super nice. It looks like a couple of the caps from the binding posts are missing, which I couldn't care less about. And there is not a scratch on it. So, my BlueSound Node was a Maddie's Trinket and Treasure, or an OG open box. And that arrived, it was perfect as well. So what do we have here? We have a power cord. We have a USB adapter. I think this is Wi-Fi. DNUA 93F. There's another, this is a Euro power cord. This is a US power cord. There is a manual here, what's in the box. And then in this box, let's see what else is here. Remote control, Wi-Fi antenna, ×2. So that's not a Wi-Fi adapter. I'll have to figure out what that is. And batteries for the remote, unopened. And Matt in his videos often doesn't use the remotes. He uses the BlueSound app on his phone. So the C388 is a 2-channel Class D amplifier. It's 150 watts per channel, anywhere from 4 ohms all the way to 8 ohms. So 6 ohm speakers like the Dynaudio Evoke that's sitting here behind me are, well in that range. Provides enough power for a more power hungry speaker like the Evokes, which require a little bit more power to perform, especially at loud volumes. I never felt that it was underpowered. It performs very well. The version that I purchased has the BlueSound Node module in it. So it's an MDC version. There's something called, NAD has something called MDC, which is this modular design chassis, and you can add these cards to it. So this one came with the BluOS 2i card. So if you look at the back of the amplifier, what you'll see is that it has speaker A and speaker B, left and right. It also has phono inputs. It has 2 line inputs, and then it has a subwoofer or pre-amplifier output. And then we see the BlueSound module over here with another spare module, and you can add something like an HDMI module to it to add HDMI switching. It does have optical and coaxial digital inputs as well. So now that we've talked about the unit itself, I did an unboxing video. You can see what the thing actually looks like when you're unboxing it and how it comes. It was packaged very well. It's been very functional, and I've really had no issues with functionality. It hasn't crashed on me. It hasn't caused any issues. I like BlueSound a lot, or the BluOS app a lot. So previous to the NAD C388, I was using a Bluesound node, which is right over here. You can see it there underneath my computer. So that's a Bluesound node. And then above it, you can see the Shit Vidar, which is sitting below that Emotiva amp. It's the bottom one there on my rack. The Shit Vidar is also 150 watts per channel. So this C388 came up for sale on Obsessed Garage, and it was an open box. It was 15% off. And I thought, well, let me give this a shot. Let me see how it is. I've never owned a piece of NAD equipment. I've heard good things about them, and it's just something that I've never had the pleasure of owning in the past. So my thought was that I could use this unit to replace my Bluesound node and my Shit Vidar. And I actually have another place where I could use the Shit Vidar, and I was just going to sell my Bluesound node. So that would give me kind of an all-in-one unit in the garage, and then also allow me to deal with this other area that I need a source in. So what did I like about it? Well, it's very loud, very clear. It performs very well. It does come with a remote, which you can laugh all you want to at the remote. The BluOS app is phenomenal. It's way better than the remote, don't get me wrong. But there's something about just being able to pick up a remote and tap the mute button and not having to pull your phone out of your pocket, unlocking it, go to the app, and then pausing the music. This is much more convenient in certain circumstances, like your kid walking outside while you're working on your car and you having to have a conversation with them quickly, or you wanting to pause the music very quickly so that you can record a video and then start it again when you're done. So the remote is very nice for that. And the Bluesound node does not have a remote. It requires you to use your phone. So that is one thing that is really nice about this unit. Secondly, the ability to run A speakers and B speakers is nice. So I was actually using this in my garage. The A speakers are the Evoke 20s that are here on my workbench. And the B speakers are actually these legacy, they're episode 8-inch in ceiling speakers, and I had those connected as well. And that was just giving me the ability to play all over the garage if I wanted to, and not have just the Evokes playing back music. That worked very well. The power was very good. I never wanted for more power. The one major problem, and the singular reason why I'm getting rid of this, and I'm wondering if it could be fixed in a firmware update by NAD at some point in the future, is the crossover between the speakers and a subwoofer. So if you're new to the audio game and you don't understand what a crossover is, basically you have speakers called subwoofers. This is a subwoofer right here. And those subwoofers are designed to produce low frequencies. So we'll say anything below 80 hertz or 100 hertz. Anything below that, it's going to do really well and play back really loud with authority, and it's designed for those frequencies. And then a speaker like the bookshelf speakers behind me, which have a smaller speaker, they're a 6.5-inch woofer, those are designed to play back, we'll say anything from like 80 hertz up. While these can play down to about 60, but just for all intents and purposes, we'll say 80 hertz. So usually what you want to do is you want to have a crossover, which is a filter inside your amplifier, inside your source unit that says anything below 80 hertz, we're going to send to our subwoofer, and anything above 80 hertz, we're going to send to our speakers. And 80 hertz is a very typical frequency that you would set this. I've seen people set them as low as 60. I've seen people set them as high as like 100 to 120, but never really higher than that. When you get above 100, in my opinion, you get really sloppy bass. And when you get below 60, in my opinion, then your subwoofer isn't doing a lot and you're getting a lot of distortion out of your speakers, out of most speakers. So 80 is really a good sweet spot for the crossover frequency. The Bluesound node has unlimited the Bluesound node has adjustability on this. So I can say it at 40 hertz, I can set it at 200 hertz, I can set it at 80 hertz, I can set it whatever I want to in a range. And that range is far wider than it needs to be. So I feel, in my opinion, that I have nearly unlimited adjustability with the Bluesound node. So when I set my Bluesound node at 80 hertz, it's sending everything below 80 to my sub. It's sending everything above 80 to my amplifier, my shit Vidar, which is actually powering my speakers. And what that means is I can crank it and I get no distortion at insane volumes because the speakers are playing the notes that they are designed to play. And when you're giving speakers the notes that they're designed to play, they're less likely to have distortion, and distortion is what ruins speakers. So the problem with the C388 is that there is only one crossover frequency that you can set. That is it. The crossover has two settings, off and on. And when you set it to on, your crossover frequency is automatically 150 Hertz. There is no other option. I promise you, I went through the manual, I talked to multiple people. There is no option. It's not a setting that I'm missing. You can only set it to 150 Hertz. And that, in my opinion, is ridiculous. And it limits the abilities of this amplifier tremendously. Because when I set it to 150 Hertz, my speakers, they can play whatever I send to them with authority and just be fine. But the subwoofer does not sound great when you get above, say, 100 Hertz. So you end up with this hole in your mid-bass region where your bass notes have authority and your mid-range has authority, your vocals and all of the music that you're hearing above the bass, that all has authority. But there's this hole in the middle where you're not getting those very critical notes because your subwoofer doesn't play 150 Hertz well. Your speakers do, but your subwoofer does not. Unless you're using a very small sub, like an 8-inch subwoofer, maybe this doesn't apply to you and everything is fine. But with a 12 or a 10-inch subwoofer, they're just not designed to play that high and be loud and clear and have authority. You're getting out of the omnidirectional bass. So because of that, you start sensing where the sound is coming from, meaning that it's coming from the subwoofer and not your speakers, and it doesn't sound as clean and clear as it should. So for that reason, that one singular reason, if you're looking, like me, at the difference between spending $2,000 on a C388 or buying something like this Bluesound Node and pairing it with an amplifier, I would say do not buy this, instead buy that. The Bluesound Node, or BluOS in general, is a phenomenal source. It is very good. It is easy to control. It has excellent sound quality. I told my wife, install the BluOS app on your phone. She did, and she was immediately using it. Like, I didn't have to tell her anything. She just figured it out. It's very intuitive. It's very easy to use. It works very well, and it's easy for multiple people to collaborate on the same device. It's awesome. But this is $2,000. The Bluesound Node is about 800 bucks. And for $750, you can get the shit Vidar that I have right there. And now you're at $1,500. And you have everything you need. The one thing that this has that does not is the phono inputs for a record player. And I did listen to a phono, I connected my record player to this, and it sounds very good. It's got a very good phono preamplifier. One thing that I will say is that if I go back and forth between the between the BluOS and the phono preamplifier, I don't get the same volume output, so you constantly have to play around with the volumes to get them to be where you want to be. I wish that the phono preamp had a little bit more gain in this, and then it would be a little bit closer, and then it would just be easier to transition back and forth between sources. Very minor gripe. I could totally deal with that. It's not a big deal. But the 150 Hertz frequency for your crossovers is just way too high. If it was 100, I could probably deal with it, but at 150, I can't. I can filter my subwoofer to make the bass tight again, but I can't fix my speaker. So you have to choose between sending full range sound to your speakers and sending full range sound to your subwoofer and using the filter on the back of your subwoofer to adjust, or crossing over way too high and missing out on the whole mid-range of the song. And I just think that that's a tremendous oversight by NAD. Now, from what I understand, The C399 does not have this issue. But in my opinion, if I was looking for an amplifier that is Class D, that is very powerful and provides somewhere in the neighborhood of 150 watts per channel, I would rather buy the Bluesound Node, a nice pair of RCA cables, maybe something from AudioQuest, and this. This is the Emotiva A2. It does have rack mount ears that are available as an option. And then if you turn it around the back, you'll see that the back is very clean. It does have channel 1, channel 2 inputs and outputs. And it is a very good, clean amplifier. I do not think the performance of the NAD is better than the A2. They both sound incredibly clear, incredibly clean. They both add no coloration to your music, and they are just very crystal clear representations of the source that you are feeding them. So I have every confidence in the A2 that I have in the C388. But the A2 is 500 bucks and the Bluesound Node is like 800 bucks. So you're $1,300 for this versus almost $2,000 for the C388. So in my opinion, this is the better buy. Also, doing the Bluesound Node as a separate unit gives you the flexibility to play around with a couple different amplifiers. Maybe you don't like the Class D sound, and that's okay. Not everybody does. So you can be like me and you could choose something like this shit Vidar, which is right there. And that is 150 watts by 2 at 6 ohms, 100 by 2 at 8, or 200 by 2 at 4 ohms. That is a Class AB amplifier, not a Class D. It does have a warmer sound. I prefer it personally. I like it better than the NAD. That's not to say that the NAD is bad or that it's underpowered. It's just that I personally like a warmer sound, and I believe that the shit provides that to me where the NAD does not. Again, nothing against the NAD. It's a great product. This crossover frequency is the singular reason that I am going to sell this. I'm going to sell this on eBay. It's going to go for what it goes for. And that delta between what I spent and what it sells for is what it cost me to learn this lesson, because I didn't realize that it was limited to a 150 hertz crossover frequency and that you had no other options. So hopefully this helps somebody. If you're specifically looking for an NAD product, my recommendation would be that you look at something like a C399, which is more expensive than this, but does have the adjustable crossover frequencies based on what I've been told. I haven't had my hands on it personally. It does have a little bit more power than this unit. I don't think that you really need more power, but you know, whatever. You can never have too much power. Option B, I think you do the Bluesound Node and you do an NAD 2-channel amplifier. They make several of them. You can find something that fits your power range that you're looking to produce, and you could be perfectly fine. If you're looking to run a record player and you're concerned about the phono preamp, because that's one of your sources, which was one of mine. I was using BluOS and I was using phono. What you can do is you can buy a shit Manny, and the Manny is their headphone preamp. It's completely adjustable. It's a little desktop unit. It's about this big. So I would just recommend you buy that and you use the analog inputs that the Bluesound Node has, because it has an analog input, and you can still choose between sources as you will. You can still adjust the volume the same way. You control everything from the app, and it works very well, and it still has BluOS, and you can do all of that. So that's what I will be doing. That would be my choice personally. Having owned both systems and being in a position where I can sell one of them and not worry about it, I'm going to get rid of the NAD C388, the all-in-one unit that I thought would be the game changer, and instead keep my separates, my Bluesound Node, my shit Vidar, and a separate shit Manny. That was what I'm going to use as my preamplifier for my phonograph. What's really nice about the Manny, in my opinion, is that it has adjustable gain, and you won't end up with that source where you're listening to phono and it's quiet, and then you switch to BluOS and it's loud, and then you go back to phono and it's quiet. So if you are somewhere that you're going to be switching sources quite a bit, if you're using it in a listening area in your living room or something like that, it might make sense to do something where you're using a separate preamp and you can adjust those levels accordingly and come up with a nice transition between those two. So thank you for watching. I hope this helps you out. Again, not hating on the NAD. I think it's a great product. It's just that one oversight makes it not for me. So thank you for watching. Have a great day.